And it looks like we're recording. Okay. Howdy, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Yesterday, Sophia, Angie had put some pictures up of a dress that she had done and was kind of asking for some input and some help. And the one she did looks great, but I've got a patterning method that I've been using that I think is going to look just a little bit better too. So we just kind of threw together impromptu class here. So sorry about the short notice, but this just kind of all just sort of happened. So what we're looking at is basic Norse or Viking apron dress. We're also going to be talking about the Serk or the underdress that goes with this. The patterning I use for the Serk is really just very similar to a boxed-in tunic. Because curiously enough, rectangular construction and straight lines and stuff, that sort of patterning and tailoring was appropriate for, I don't know, a couple hundred years or more. So that's the basic pattern that I use for that. So that's not going to be horribly complicated. It'll be very similar to what I've already done in some other classes, but it'll help for this. So all of this type of patterning, first off, some of this I got, the basic pattern that I have for this I got from Mistress Brie's, Brie out in the Outlands. I don't have the information on what the provenance of this is and where these patterns come from. So I'll have to get those to you later, but it's a dress pattern that I've seen frequently on people that kind of specialize in this type of costuming, and it looks good on you. So we're going to go with that for now. And I need to do more research on where it all comes from. So but that's something that I've got to do later. But for what we're doing today, this will work for you. So we have the apron and we have the Serk. Nice thing about these patterning method is it's all rectangular construction. So these are all straight lines. We don't have any curves. The pattern that Sophia had been using before was, in my mind, it's a pattern that is intended to conserve fabric use, and that's fine, but I think it's a little bit complicated. This is actually, I think, a lot easier, and finding the math on this is a lot easier to figure out as well. So to start with, I'm going to go over the how I do the pattern for the Serk first, and then I'll do the apron dress after that. So some of the measurements that we ended up taking, some of you were just kind of coming in at the end as we were finishing up the measurements. So some of the measurements that I'm taking for this, and if you're interested, as I'm talking about the Serk, if you're at home and you want to take some of these measurements for yourself, by the time we get to the apron dress, you'll be able to have your own measurements and you can follow along. And as I walk you through this, when I give you these measurements, you're going to be able to make a dress today or tomorrow or whenever you get time to, but you'll have the measurements you need to take this. So you got a couple of minutes while we're talking about how to make the Serk to begin with. But if you want to take your own measurements as you follow along with this, then we do that. Also, if anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to use the raise hand icon on the Zoom here, and I'll get to you. So, okay, so these are the measurements we're going to be using. There's the bust measurement, which is going to go right across the nipple line. For the length, for the Serk, you're going to want the length from the top of your shoulder, or I usually use the back of the neck, just the base of the neck. Curiously enough, it's the fifth cervical vertebrae, which is the vertebrae that we need to cover for heavy weapons fighting. So we use that C5 measurement from the right about there down to the floor. So that's going to be the length for the underdress. The length for the apron dress, you're going to be measuring from the armpit, because this dress is going to come, the top of it is going to come right across the top of the breast, right where the underdress is. So you're going to have the width of it, or the total circumference we're going to do across the bust, but for the length of it, we're going to do just from the armpit. So you're going to measure from the top of your armpit down to probably about the mid calf. The apron dress doesn't go all the way to the floor like the underdress does. Part of this, part of the fashion of the time is sorry, I gotta let somebody in here. So part of the fashion of the time is, early shades of conspicuous consumption, where you have the longer underdress to show that you can afford fabric, that sort of stuff. So the apron dress is going to be a little bit shorter. So the length is going to be from the armpit to about the middle of your calf. Then we're going to need, for the apron, we're going to need from the armpit to the natural waist, because that's where we're going to start the top of the gores. So we'll need that measurement. So armpit to the natural waist, wherever you want those gores to be set. Likewise, for the underdress, we're going to need that same measurement from the shoulder to the natural waist for the same reason, so we can set that gore. When I do these measurements, I'll measure from the top down, and then cut off the length, or subtract that from the total length of it, rather than the bottom up, because when you finish the hem on the bottom of it, that's going to cut out a certain amount of fabric. So basically, I'm looking at, I'm more concerned with where it starts at your waist and goes down, rather than how far up the dress it comes from the other way. So we want to have that measurement from your shoulder to the natural waist. And then there's the arm length. The arm length that I do on this, because the pattern I'm using for this is just, for the sleeve, is basically just going to be a tapered sleeve. So the sleeve is going to meet under the armpit. We're just going to give it, I'll probably need to get a measurement for an arm's eye for you as well. So basically, you're going to take a measurement around the arm, and it's going to be a little bit lower. Rather than, typically you would use gussets under the armpit to do this sort of thing, to give yourself a little extra room. But what I do is just, I make it a little bit longer here, and then I just do one tapered cut all the way from there to and it's just one straight line. So as we do that with when you're measuring, so your circumference around is bigger than your twice the width of your shoulders. So the underdress is going to, the shoulder seam is going to be a little bit off of the shoulder. It's not going to be at your shoulder point. Although I'm going to need to have you get another measurement in just a second, Angie. So for the underdress, it's going to be off of the shoulder. And so because it's not right at the shoulder point, what we need to do is once we figure out how wide the fabric is for the underdress, I take the arm measurement from the center of your spine all the way out to your wrist. And then what I'll do is I'll subtract half the width of the fabric that I'm using from that measurement, which gives you basically half the body that you're using. And I cut off that amount, and that gives you how long it is from the sleeve down. I'll get to that more in just a second. Angie, can I have you go ahead and get a measurement off of Anna for inside the shoulders? So it's going to be just inside the shoulder, not at the shoulder point. I don't know if you can see where I'm at here. I'm going to unmute you real quick.
I've got 10, Sean.
That seems about right.
That look about right?
Yeah, that's about right. You know what? We're gonna go 9 on that. We're gonna slim it up. Yeah, I'd like that just a little bit better. And so by the time we put in the seam allowance in there, that'll give us 10. So that's about right. So so that's the measurement that we're using for the front panel of the dress. So it's going to be right in between the shoulders for everybody else listening there. Also, let's get a measurement on the back. So we're looking at, going to be looking at shoulder blades. So go ahead and turn around there. So what we're looking at is, again, probably about the same point, because your back might be a little bit wider than the front of the shoulders there. So,
Hold on, I'm getting the camera to stand up here.
okay. Is that about 10 or 11?
Yeah.
So we don't want it all the way out to the shoulder point. We basically kind of want to have it right between the shoulder,
In the middle of the shoulder blades. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about 10.
it's about 10.
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like we're probably going to use the same for the front and back for the panels. So I'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I sidetracked on some of the measurements we need there, but go ahead and if you're taking measurements at home, go ahead and take those as well. So we got the arm length. Again, the arm length is going to be from the center of the spine, slight bend in the elbow because you don't want to do a straight elbow. Arm's going to bend just a little bit. So you can take that down, and you can either measure that down to the wrist or you can measure it down to the knuckle. And then for the neck measurements for the Serk. So again, on the boxed-in tunic is basically one piece of fabric folded over with a hole in the middle of it. You can do a keyhole neckline for this. That certainly works too. But this is a method that I use for figuring out how big that neck hole needs to be. And curiously enough, the math always works on this. So the measurement that we're looking for on that, and we just went over this with Angie for those of you that were in there. So let me try to get a little bit closer. Okay. So we're looking for the first measurement is going to be from the top of your sternum, and it's going to be out this way, and it's going to be right where your neck meets your shoulder, right in fighting terms, this is what we call the gutter. So right there in that V right there, you're just going to measure that straight down. Mine happens to be about 4 to 4.5 inches. Okay, and then so we're going to have that measurement right there, and then from that same point right there, we're going to measure from the top of your shoulder down to your collarbone. Mine on that is again about like 4 inches thereabouts. Measurements we got on that for Anna were the width of it was 3 inches, and the length down was about 2 inches. I'll see if I can do a demonstration on how those numbers work out, so you can get an idea about how we cut that. I should be able to do that in just a minute. And then the last measurement we got was the hand measurement. There's a number of ways you can do it. For most of these outfits that just kind of pull over, unless you're actually doing buttons on the sleeve, your wrist measurement isn't going to be big enough for you to get your hand through. So what you want to do, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can either do a coned hand like this, kind of the fist hand. Hang on a second. Oops. Hang on a second. Okay. So you can either do the cone hand like this, which will let your hand kind of slide through there. Or are all you guys seeing me, or are you guys still seeing Angie?
Right here.
Okay. Are you seeing me?
As long as you're talking, we see you.
Okay, good.
We have it on speaker view.
I know there's a way to highlight me, but I'm technology. For technology
Click
for
on
us.
mute and do spotlight.
Where am I seeing that?
It should be like on your screen. There will be like a 3 little
Dots.
yes, and it should be in there. Hopefully.
Hang on.
But if you're recording right now and you have it in speaker view, your recording will be in speaker view. So as long as you're talking, it will always be on you. It'll only switch when someone else talks if you're doing a recording.
Cool. Because all this technology stuff is kind of hard for us IT guys.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. Okay, so the hand measurement, you can do the cone hand, right? Which when you put it on, it'll have to go through there. So this measurement around there, right? You can do a fisted hand, so that that's a bigger measurement there. So you make sure that you can always be able to get your hand through without kind of trying to squeeze it through. One of the other things you can do is you can do a measurement on the fattest part of your forearm, And if you do that, and if you make your wrist line or your hem at that size, that'll allow you to kind of push your sleeves up over your forearm if you wanted to do work. So however you want to do that, that's the measurements that you're looking for to be able to get your hand through the sleeve at the end. Hang on a second. Shoulders. 9 and 10. So Angie, you said the front shoulder was 9 and the back shoulder was 10, or was the back shoulder 9 as well?
Hold on. Where'd you write that? So this is the front's 9, back's 10.
Okay, yeah, that's about right. Like I said, your back across the shoulders, your back is a little bit broader than your front, right? So those are the basic measurements that we're looking at for both of these. So making the underdress, making the Serk. Hang on a second. Let's see if I have some. Look here in my sewing room, I've got fabric stash.
Go figure.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of ironing here off camera as I talk about the measurements for the underdress. So with the underdress, it is going to be one piece of fabric folded over and with a hole cut in the neckline. So, and it's just going to be a straight square body block going down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that. We're going to take the measurement, the bust measurement, and so we got 36 for your bust measurement. So what we're going to do there is we're going to add 4 inches to this. I usually do 4 or 5 inches, which gives me seam allowance for all the seams that I need. Because basically if you're doing on each side, you're going to need 1 inch on each side for seam allowance alone, right? Because that's, if you're doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance, that's 1 inch total on each side. And then the extra just gives you a little bit of breathing room, so it just gives you some ease of movement in it. So I typically just take the circumference and I add 4 to 5 inches. And with yours being 36, we're just going to add 4 just to make the math a little bit easier. So that's going to be 40 inches, okay, for the circumference. So what we're going to do then is, so that gives us, with that circumference, that gives us the width of the body that we need, okay? Basically, we're just going to take that and cut that in half. So we're looking at 20 inches, okay? The 20 inches is going to be the width of the fabric for your body piece, okay? So if you're laying out your 56 wide linen, you cut that at 20 inches wide, okay? The length on this, because from the top of your shoulders to the bottom of the floor, you've got 53. So accounting for a certain amount of loss that you're gonna have on the hem, on the bottom. So we're gonna add, you got 53 for the total length on that, so we're gonna go 56 with that, okay? So, and that's 56 for the, for like the total length. So we need to double that because we're basically taking something like this. If this is the length of your dress, take something like this, and then we cut a hole in the top. That's your dress. We add gores and sleeves, okay? So at 56, we're looking at 112 inches, okay? So the fabric you're gonna be having is 112 inches long, and it's going to be 20 inches wide. Does it make sense? I'm gonna unmute Angie because for those following at home, I was mostly doing this for Angie, but I figured everybody else would be interested in tagging along here. So pardon me if I'm kind of focusing on Angie and Anna in particular for giving her the pattern here. So, but y'all can follow along. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. You guys following along so far, Anna?
Hey, you got it? Yes.
Okay. I'm doing a class right now. Okay. So 20 inches wide, 112 inches long, okay? That's your body. For the sleeve, so we have 28 inches from your spine to your wrist. And was that is that to the wrist or is that to the knuckle?
Wrist.
Okay. So we might add just a couple inches on there, so it goes just a little bit past the wrist. Not quite all the way down into your knuckle, but just give you a little bit of extra room on the end there. So we're gonna say 28. So what we're doing is with the body of it is going to be 20 inches, okay, and that includes the seam allowance in there too, right? So we're going to take half of that because that's where your spine is going to be. So 10 inches. So we're taking that total measurement of 28 inches for your arm. We're knocking off 10 inches off of that.
18.
18 inches, okay? And again, that's because your circumference is bigger around than your shoulders. When we do this type of outfit, the body has to be big enough to fit around you here, but that means that the shoulder is off down here. It doesn't end at the shoulder point. So if we measure it from your shoulder point to your wrist, you end up with about 3 extra inches on your sleeve. Okay. So we're going to go 18 inches, and actually to give it just a couple inches on the end there to give you a little more room on there, we're going to go 20. Okay. So 20 inches. Also, let me have you get a measurement. I'm going to need a sleeve head measurement for basically what you're going to do is, honestly, I own a tape measure. Do you? Okay. So basically, you're just kind of drape it over the shoulder.
How many women does it take?
And
That look about right?
yeah, I would say, yeah, probably, yeah, just right at the bust line, right? So
20.
how much do you have there?
20.
Yeah, that's about right. So we're gonna go 22 on that. Okay, just to give you a little, again, just give a little breathing room, little ease on that. We're gonna go 22 on that. So that is that's the arm's eye. that's what's gonna give you, that's your sleeve head measurement. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So you have your sleeve head, your wrist. What was your wrist measurement? Was it, or what was your hand measurement? Was it 10?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, 9. You know, you've got 9. Okay, so your hand measurement was 9, so we're going to go 10 to give you the seam allowance. Okay. It's making sense so far? You guys got any questions so far? Anybody else have any questions? We're doing all right?
Can't shut up.
All right, moving right along. Okay, so so that gives us the width of the body is going to be 20 inches. The total length is going to be 112 inches. Your sleeve is the sleeve head is going to be 22. The length of it is going to be 20 inches long. The wrist is going to be 10. That gives you all the seam allowance that you need. So for the gores, with this underdress, with the gores, I just do the 2 side gores. I don't really do the front gore because the front gore would have to almost come up under your breast to fit. So we're going to just do a couple of side gores, okay? And so we have, let's see, from your shoulder to your waist was 13 inches, right?
Yes.
So if we're using 56, twice over, so if we're using 56 minus 13 is 43. Is that right? 56 minus 40. Yeah, 56 minus 13 is 43.
Yes.
So the length of your gore is going to be 43 inches. Okay.
Okay.
And the width of it at the base, this is just kind of a guesstimate. It just depends on how big you want, how much space you want on the side gores at the base. Understanding that with the side gores, the kind of the point of those is to give you room for your legs to move. Typically with the boxed-in tunic, the front gores are twice the width at the base as the side gores. Now, when I do the modified version of that, I just have them all the same size, but you have a wider gore in the front because that's how we walk, right? And so we need to have that extra fullness in the front to be able to give us space to walk, right? So this isn't going to have quite as much of that. It's not intended to, restrict your walking pattern at all, but we're going to put a little bit of gore, or a little bit of space in the bottom of the hem at the gore to be able to give you some room to move. So we're going to go, I think the one I had, for my wife, we did 12 inches at the base. Hers ended up being a little bit longer than that. You said we come up with 43 for yours? Yeah, that's probably about right. So yeah, so your gores, yeah, we're gonna do, we can do 43 on that. Those might end up coming up a little bit higher, but then we're gonna do 12 inches at the base for the gores. Okay, does that make sense?
We can self pictures if you need to.
Okay. So I'm just going to show you up here on the screen the one that I made for my wife last year. You guys, how well you'll be able to see this. Okay. So we have the body piece right here, which for her also is 53 inches long. And I think in this one we ended up going 23. 23 inches wide on the body there. That's the sleeve. So you can see it's just a tapered from the bottom of the arm's eye straight up to the wrist. So basically, you're just gonna take your 22 inches for your 22 by 20 for your sleeve, right? And then you're gonna just fold that in half and draw. So that wrist measurement, you're going to take half half your wrist measurement for the end of it. When you put that on the fold, and you just draw a straight line from the armpit to the wrist measurement. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so that's how we get the sleeve. And again, you can do that with gussets, but I've designed this to be kind of just really super simple, so we don't have to worry too much about it. And then that's kind of what the gore is going to look like. This one I think we had at 36 for her. Sounds like yours is a little bit longer, but if you've got a longer, it looks like you might have a longer torso. Is that right?
Yes.
Typically. So, or a shorter torso. Can't tell. So yeah, and that's just going to be the side gores as well. So that's basically just going to be coming right up to here. We're not going to be doing the front gore. You can if you want to, but that's just going to come up here. So it should come up to right above your hip, just to your natural waist right there, and then just go down, give you about 12 inches at the base, which will give you a total of 24 inches around extra to begin with. Does that make sense?
Right. One gore.
What's that?
One gore on each side.
One
So
gore on
over here.
Yep. One gore on each side. Yep.
Two. That's why I'm double checking.
Yep. And yeah, you're just cutting triangles on that. That's all there is to it. When you typically, I'll cut those on a fold, and the length that you're looking for on that is going to be the center line length. Okay.
Right.
So from the floor straight up is going to be 36 inches. Understanding that the hypotenuse of the triangle and everything, the line that you have from the outsides of that to the point ends up being longer, because that's just the way math works. So that may end up sitting a little bit higher up in your up into the side there, but if it does, that's okay. And if it's if that's too much, then you can cut that down for your next one. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So that's the basic body line on the Serk. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I cut the neckline and how these measurements work out on the neckline. And I'm going to see if I can. You see the fabric here?
Hey, Sean,
Yes.
does that triangle sideboard have one straight side and one sloped side, or both sides sloped?
Both sides are sloped for that one. On the apron dress, you got one side is straight, one side is sloped. So I'll get to that in a minute, but these are just straight up triangle all the way up. Okay, so with the neckline here, what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna fold this over. I don't know, can you guys see this? Looks like the color happens to blend in nicely with the table, which is not really what I was looking for, but this is what I got. Okay, so as I fold that, as I iron that line right there, that's gonna be the top of the shoulder seam, right? Okay, and then, and again, so just imagine that this is your whole body piece right here, and it goes further out there. So now I'm gonna iron it, I'm gonna fold it in half. So basically I've quartered the body piece, okay? So now, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take measure again. So we have, the width was 3 inches across here. So I'll mark that there. We had 2 inches down here. Okay. And as I'm just going to round out that. I should probably put in a different red so you guys can see this better. And I mentioned this in class yesterday, but for those who didn't know, so this chalk pencil that I have right here, this is definitely my preferred tool for doing this. It's got a retractable chalk. These are available at Joann's in the quilting section. They're about $18, $19 thereabouts. So use your coupons that they send you every couple of weeks. But this is definitely my preferred tool. So feel free to go get yourself one of those. So after I took those measurements, I'm going to go ahead and kind of round out that line. Okay. Okay. Now that line is going to be, that's going to be the front line, right? The front is going to come down quite a bit lower than the back does, right? So we're going to make a little bit for the back line here as well. We're going to go about an inch down, and then I'm just going to kind of come over here and round that out there. Okay. And as I start cutting this out, I can cut out the back out of the whole thing because the back is gonna, because the front is gonna be at least that far down. So cut that, right? Now what I'm gonna do, I don't want to cut the back much, or the back much lower. I went a little bit lower than I expected. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of open this up. Like so, and make sure those are lined up right there. And I'm gonna cut this one. That gives me neck hole. Okay. And I know this looks really small, but I'm guessing that Anna's head is kind of small from these measurements. And ideally, this This opening here is going to just barely fit over your head. Like you might just kind of have to snug it down, because when you finish this line, I usually finish it with like you can do a facing. I'll do a bias tape on it as well. But when you do that, you're going to be taking up about a 1/2 inch there as well. So when you first put it on without that neckline being finished, it is going to be like snug, like you might have to work it over. But by the time you take in that 1/2 inch off of each seam, it's gonna be plenty big enough to go over your head, and then it'll just it'll sit comfortably on your neck without choking you.
Right, that work.
So that's just a little trick. I got that trick from Mistress Goulinet up in Ontario. She's a wizard. She showed me how to do that, and I've been using it ever since. And just those 2 measurements off the neckline there. Every time I've done this, it fits over somebody's head perfectly. So that's how I do that. Okay, any questions so far? Before we move on to the apron portion of our program, like I said, go ahead and throw that out to anybody else in the class who has any questions. Anybody? All making perfect sense? Okay, moving right along. Okay, so for the apron, again, this is the one that I made for the wife last year. Basically, there's going to be a front panel, which I think is this one. It's going to be a front panel and 2 side panels. And then the back piece is going to be in 2 different pieces. So there's going to be basically half panels that are going to go together. Let me show you on this one. So this is one of the first dresses I made. Bronwyn, who I believe is on the call, was kind enough to do the embellishments on this, which works out really handy for showing what these seams are. Okay, so we have the front panel here, and again, the measurement on that is going to be just inside the shoulders, almost in line with the nipple line there. So that's going to be the front panel. We have 2 side gores in the front here, and that is 1 straight line and 1 angled line, and it looks like, yeah, that's there. And then we have the side panel here, and then in the back we have 2 back panels and 1 gore in the back. So we've got the 2 front gores, and we've got the 1 back gore. And that back gore is going to sit right about the small of your back. But again, with this kind of tailoring, what we're looking for is we always want to try to accent the things we want to accent, and we want to hide the things that we don't want to accent. So that back gore, if you got some junk in the trunk, you can set that gore up a little bit higher, so that it goes over and so covers up that booty if you want to do that. So the setting on where that is going to be is going to be kind of wherever is comfortable for you on where you want to make that. So so with Anna being somewhat slender, we are going to put that right at the small of her back. Okay. Did we get a measurement for that, Angie?
Hold on, we can double check.
Yeah. So we're gonna want measurement from I think we did. Hang on a second.
I think you did, actually, Sean. Check your notes. What are we looking
I've
for?
got shoulder to waist. That's probably going to be it. Let's go ahead and.
And from the small of the back?
No, we're now. You know what? We got the armpit to waist. So, yeah, let's take a measurement. Go about from where her armpit is. Measure down her spine. Measure from about where her armpit is down to the small of her back. There you go, right about there.
10 inches.
How much?
10.
10 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Armpit.
Yeah, yeah, that's about right. Okay. Second. Two.
Is it time?
I think she just told him to stop.
Okay. So for making the the panels, basically what we're looking at is so we've got a 36-inch bust. That's the circumference that we need this whole thing to fit. So with 36-inch bust, we're going to add. So this is going to be a little closer fitting than the Serk is. But we're going to add. We'll go ahead and add 3 inches to give us a little bit of ease. So we're going to go 39. Do I want to go 40? No. Here's what we're going to do. So we're going to take the measurements as is, and we are going to, I'm going to go with 38. And then we're going to add the seam allowance to each of the different panels. Because with having the 2 back panels and the 2 side panels, it's going to, the seam allowance is going to come in. So we're going to look at 38 inches. So 38, from that 38, we are going to take 10 inches for the front panel. Is that what we decided?
Yeah. 10.
Because there was a front shoulder width. Okay, so the front was 9 inches. So we're gonna do 9 inches for that. We're gonna do the 10 inches for, so 9 inches for the front, 10 inches for the back. And on that back, that's gonna be in 2 different pieces. So we're gonna do 5 and 5 on those, okay? So that gives us 19. The circumference overall was, we're working with 38. So 38 minus 19. God, my math is awful. That's 19. So we're 19 inches to cover the, so 19 inches remaining for the 2 side panels, okay? So for the ease of math, we're just gonna call that 20. So your side panels are going to be 10 inches plus seam allowance, okay? So we have 9 inches for the front panel, 10 inch or 5 and 5 for the back panel, and 10 for the side panels. So if we add, we're gonna add 1 inch total to each of those measurements for seam allowance, okay? So your front panel is going to be 10 inches.
Are you understanding me, Jenna? Kind of.
Anna, let me know if you have questions. I'll go over it all. What do you need? You getting it?
I'm kind of figuring it out. This is my first time ever doing it, so it's going to be confusing for me right now.
Okay, so let's go over this. Let's go over this real slow because I went through that math kind of quick. Okay, so we have your front panel measurement right just inside your shoulders. Okay, that was 9 inches. Okay, we're going from a 36-inch bust measurement. I added 2 inches on that just to give us a little bit of ease in the dress. Right? So we're going with 38 total circumference. Does it make sense? And that's what it's going to be. That's the finished measurement is going to be 36 inches, 38 inches all the way around. Right? Following so far? Okay. The front panel is, so that's the measurement between your shoulders right here on the insides of your shoulders, not on the outsides of your shoulders. That front panel is going to be 9 inches. Okay?
Okay.
So 38 inches minus 9 gives us 20, gives us 31.
Okay.
Right? The back shoulder measurements, right? That was a total of 10 inches. Okay?
Yeah.
That 10 inches we're splitting into two because we have the two back panels,
Okay.
right? So that gives us 5 inches for each of the two back panels,
Okay.
Okay.
right? So that's that leaves us so that's 9 inches. That's basically 6. Is that right? 16 or yeah. So that's 19 inches out of the 38 inches total circumference, right? So 38 minus 19, because that's the front panel and the back panel. So 38 inches minus 19 inches gives us 19 inches.
Okay.
So we need to make that. That is your side panels are going to make up the rest of that.
Okay.
And he's
Make
saying
sense?
20 keys, so 10 on each.
Okay.
So with that, with the side panels being a total of 19 inches that we need to make up in the sides, right? I'm just going to call that 20 inches. Give you just a little extra, not a whole lot extra. Okay, so 20 inches total for the side panels. Cut that in half because there's one on each side, right? So your side panels are going to be 10 inches.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does it make more sense?
Yes.
Okay,
I think-
Can you let Vanessa back in, please?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can you let Vanessa back in? Her phone died.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
I think where you lost her with the seam allowance, Sean.
Okay, so those numbers that I just gave you, right? So 9 inches for the front panel, 10 inches for the 5 and 5 for the back panel, and then 10 for the side panels. Okay. Now we are going to add 1 inch to each of those because that gives you a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Hang on a second.
On either side.
Okay, so now we add 1 inch to each of those because that gives us 1/2 inch seam allowance for each of those panels.
Makes
Okay.
sense? Okay, so that makes them,
That makes sense?
Yes.
So the total measurement for your front panel is going to be 10 inches. The total measurement for each of the back panels is going to be 6 inches.
Okay.
The total measurement for each of the side panels is going to be 11 inches. And honestly, considering we fudged that a little bit with adding a little bit extra, you could probably get away with 10. But honestly, if it ends up being too much, you can either cut that out later or you can put more seam allowance in there. But we're going to go 11 inches for the side panel.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good so far. Safari Sagudi.
I'm gonna mute this for a minute because John's gonna make noise.
Can we make a noise? Okay. Okay. So, this is it. Okay. So that's how we get to 1 front panel, 2 side panels, and 2 skinny back panels. Okay. And other than that, we're just the length of it. We decided. What do we decide? Your armpit to the floor was 42. So yeah, that's it. You could probably add maybe an inch for hem, maybe 2 inch. Yeah, you could probably add 1 to 2 inches for hem. If you just do a rolled hem at like a 1/2 inch, that'll be enough. So you can maybe go 43 on the length. So for yours, as you're looking at what I've got drawn here, yours is going to be, your front panel is going to be 10 inches wide and 43 inches long. All of them are going to be 43 inches long, and they're just going to be as wide as I gave you right there. Okay. So the gores. So side gores, back gores. Basically, the way I end up building these gores is they really end up being almost copies of each other with seam allowance. Theoretically, you could cut you can cut these out, the back gore and the side gore. You can just cut them all out at once if you just fold the fabric right. Because they are going to be the same length, and they're essentially going to be the two front gores are going to be, it's basically like you're basically going to be taking the back gore and cutting that in half, and that's going to give you your two side gores in the front. With doing that, you may lose a little bit in the seam allowance, but it's not really going to be noticeable because the seam allowance just goes right into you're building that right into a construction seam as opposed to building it into a split. And you're not sewing anything up in there either. So the gore length we had on that, let's see. The total length on this, if we're going 43 inches with the total length, your measurement from your armpit to your waist was 8 inches. So 43 minus 8 is what, 35? Is that right? Man, that seems really long. It must be long in the leg. So yeah, it looks like it looks like 35. Are you long in the leg? I am mute you. I know John's back there making noise and all that, but so Anna, are you long in the legs?
I think so.
Long in the legs, short in the body. Because yeah, that measurement. Because what I'm coming up with for the length of the, from your natural waist down to your calf, I'm coming up with like 35 inches for the gore, and that seems really long.
Well, we can double check it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Give us a second. Natural waist to calf, right? Okay.
Yeah. So let's do from the natural waist down to the calf. Maybe a little bit lower.
35 inches. That's right on, Sean.
Wow. Okay. If you say so. All right. So, yeah. So it's going to be 35 inches long.
You see it?
Yeah, mostly. You could probably drop that. You could probably show me a little more closer to the waist there.
There. Okay, more like 33.
Yeah, that seems closer.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go 33 on the gore length there, because 35 seems really long.
Okay. That works.
Okay. So we'll go 33 on the length of the gore, and again, we'll probably just go let's go 24 for the width of it. So you're gonna do, if you have graph paper, you can kind of follow along and put this on. So the total length here is gonna be 33, and the width at the base is gonna be 24. And then on the side gore here, it's going to be the same thing. This line, the center line of that is going to be 33, and then it's going to be 12 inches out to the side there. So. Yeah, and then again, when you're putting this together, this straight seam right here is going to attach to the front panel, and then this side seam, the angled seam there, is going to attach to the front of the side panel. I don't know if you can see that. That's I think that's it. I think that's pretty much it. So Angie, Anna, you guys got any questions?
I don't think so, Sean. I think we're good.
It all makes perfect sense now. Okay, I would go ahead and throw it out there and ask if anybody else has any questions. You just raise your hand, or you can just come on screen if you want to. No? Okay. Well, Yeah, I think it's pretty much it. So I think I'm gonna stop recording there. So thanks for stopping by. Hopefully those will work out for you. Angie, I would suggest having her get some Ducky Bunny cotton to do a mock-up with these numbers. I'm a big fan. Always do mock-up, always do prototype. Usually when I do the mock-up, it's going to be in a fabric that I don't really care about. You know, some of that Ducky Bunny fabric, as we call it, the cheap cotton you get just about anywhere. When I do a prototype dress, to make sure that those numbers work with better fabric like linen, I'll always do a prototype after I do a mock-up. So it's just kind of part of my process, because I'm not going to put a lot of work into doing like flat felled seams or spending money on wool to do something if I don't know for certain that it's going to work. So I always want to test it out and make sure that before I put the time and the money into something, I want to make sure the numbers work. But that should work for you. So, all right.
Thank you, Sean.